the willingness to make progresses is there, and we can see results. And maybe we are too poor in communicating as an industry about the results. But I'm not sure there are a lot of industries that have moved so drastically in a few years and has reduced their carbon footprint so rapidly. And it's on all dimensions: aircraft type, new aircraft now flying, service on board, sustainable fuel, but also the way the customers want to contribute to that. And I'm convinced that the solution is not customers waiting for the airline to move, not the airline to waiting for the aircraft manufacturer to move. It's a team effort, and it's what makes me very confident and hopeful is that the reality is to work together to make it happen even more quickly than it's happening today. And it's exactly why we launched this Sustainable Flight Challenge.
Welcome to Sustainability in the Air, the world's first podcast dedicated to sustainable aviation. I'm your host, Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simpliflying. Every Thursday, I have important conversations with top aviation executives, technology entrepreneurs, and policymakers helping aviation take climate action. Conversations that help separate the signal from the noise. Whether you are a frequent flyer or an airline executive, if you care about sustainability or simply love traveling, welcome aboard. SkyTeam is a first alliance that is proactively encouraging its member airlines to take proactive sustainability steps, things and initiatives that they can do today that make the flight more sustainable. I have the CEO of SkyTeam, Patrick Rowe, who is sharing with me how exactly the idea for the SkyTeam Sustainable Flight Challenge came about, how exactly airlines are implementing some of these initiatives, and what is in it for the entire airline industry to learn from this challenge. It is absolutely encouraging and impressive to see what is happening, and I'd invite you to join me to listen in. Patrick, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. Now, you have been heading up SkyTeam for just less than a year.
Yeah.
How has it been?
Yeah, actually a little bit more than 6 months, so it's quite recent. It's fantastic to be part of this multicultural adventure and to be part of this family of 19 airlines. I love it.
Had you worked closely with the SkyTeam previously as well?
Yes, I did, because I was heading alliances for Air France KLM. So I was one of the main customers of SkyTeam.
All right, welcome to the other side of the table now. When you were a customer and even now, why is sustainability part of the agenda for an alliance like SkyTeam? Usually we see this, emerging as an agenda for airlines or for even technology companies. Why an alliance like SkyTeam?
Yeah, it's true that the main concern starts with the airlines. So for us, it's a way also to exchange best practices. And that's exactly what we want to do with the Sustainable Flight Challenge. So we have this opportunity to make our 19 airlines discuss with each other, and that has changed a lot since COVID. The need of sharing practices has increased a lot. So that's the first element. The second one is more and more sustainability is part of customer experience. And since we are focusing a lot our projects on customer experience, we feel that we have a key role to play here.
This is very interesting that you mentioned it's part of customer experience. So you're totally hoping that sustainability initiatives show through to the customer But a lot of the things that airlines talk about these days, sustainable aviation fuel, or single engine taxi, or paperless cockpit, passengers don't see. What are some of the customer experience related initiatives that you see in SkyTeam Airlines?
Actually, the customers see more and more what the airlines are doing as far as sustainability is concerned, because they want to also do their part of offsetting or of contributing to a better airline industry. So they are they are requesting more and more to know what they can do and to know what the airlines are doing. When it comes to the alliance, to SkyTeam, even more when you combine different airlines, part of your experience, you want to know also what the different airlines are doing. So it's why we will develop in the near future, we'll develop some standards the same way we have some standards in other domains of customer experience. Will work. We are already working with the airlines to make sure that there are minimum requirements across the board through all the airlines of the alliance, that the customer know that if they fly any SkyTeam airline, they will have a minimum level of sustainability and a maximum level, by the way.
It's interesting that you mentioned a minimum level. Is there a minimum standard that SkyTeam is developing or building for its member airlines when it comes to sustainability?
Yes, we are in the process of developing minimum standards for for all the airlines as far as sustainability is concerned. It will be approved by our CEOs soon, and will become a joining requirement and also a requirement for the existing members. Once again, to make sure that the customers know when they fly a SkyTeam airline that they have a consistent level of engagement from the airline.
I'm very pleased to hear that. Now, one of the marquee initiatives with SkyTeam has been the Sustainable Flight Challenge, which now it's been more than a year. It's been running. It's the second time. Tell us a little about. Of course, you were on the Air France side when it started. Now you are heading up from the SkyTeam side. Tell us, please, how did this initiative come about and how's the reception been?
Yeah, it's a great idea. It came initially from KLM. It was an initiative called Bold Moves, and it was a bottom-up proposal from the staff of KLM. Immediately, KLM suggested to use it at SkyTeam level to organize this challenge among the SkyTeam airlines. And the first year was really, really encouraging because it was 16 airlines that were part of this challenge. And we could see the positive competition among them. And when I say competition, it was not a competition. It was really to share the best practices and to make sure that the industry will move forward and will be able to change practices and to accelerate their practices for the benefit of the customers. This year, it will be the second year, and we will move from 16 to 22 airlines. So it's more than the number of airline part of SkyTeam, because we invited also friends and family. So we have some subsidiaries of some airlines. So 22 in total. And on top of that, we will measure a total of 24 categories. We don't want to tell the world this airline is the champion, is the best. We want to focus on each detailed category to extract from that the best practices and to make sure once again that the others can use it. And one of the key category will be the adoption of the measures of last year, because we believe that of course when we talk about sustainability it's not a one-shot challenge or a one-shot action. It's meant to stay. It's why we want to reward the adoption of the measures that were tested last year.
That's very interesting that you mentioned its focus on adoption from measures of last year's competition. So you're encouraging airlines to implement this year what they've seen going around. What were some of the very innovative or interesting measures that stood out to you last year?
Well, of course, there was a lot of airlines that use sustainable fuel that reduced plastic on board, or that used electric vehicles, like on the ground, also at the airport. So that was the main flows of initiatives. But on top of that, we saw very interesting and specific initiatives. Like I can quote, for instance, Saudi. They had a Madrid to Jeddah flight, and they created on board an in-flight lab for the passengers to share their ideas during the flight about what would be for them a sustainable flight. That's one idea. That's one initiative. Kenya Airways, for instance, promoted a lot of, they called it farm to fork initiative, which was really all the catering was done with local produced food and products. Each airline was able to put the light on a specific item, or sometimes combination of all items. For some airlines, the reduction of CO2 could reach 50% on one specific flight. So that's very impressive what was achieved. And overall, the average was a reduction of 15%.
That is quite amazing. We were actually involved in the Saudi challenge, and I remember writing the announcements for the pilots to announce to the passenger on when they can start sharing ideas. And they had a full bulkhead which was full of post-its before the end of the flight, which was full of ideas. So it's quite different and fun. At the same time, useful, because lots of airlines can implement something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So we value a lot. We are looking forward to this year initiative, and to see. I'm sure there will be new ideas. But once again, what we want to value also this year is all the measures that were adopted by the airlines since last year, and to show the sustainable part of sustainability.
Absolutely. And you mentioned you expanded to 22 airlines this year by including friends and family. Two questions. One, the SkyTeam have intentions potentially for the next Sustainable Flight Challenge to be open to all airlines, whether or not they're part of SkyTeam. And secondly, what are some of the lessons that can be applied more widely, not just within SkyTeam, but industry as a whole?
It's our ambition to not only to. It's not the kind of product that we want to keep for ourselves, definitely. So we want to share as much as possible with the rest of the industry. So we are considering right now what could be next step for next year. Is it open to other alliances? Is it through IATA? Well, still to be defined, but we don't want to organize a competition between SkyTeam and the rest of the world. So it's more being able to, thanks to those initiatives, to maybe to have a wider scope of airlines that would able the industry itself to accelerate its transition. So that's the ambition. The how is yet to be defined, but the ambition is there.
I love that it's ambitious. Let's bring up a risk here as well. I was recently speaking to an airline head in India, and he said, Shashank, there's just no consumer pressure, at least in India. People are still sorting by price and they take the cheapest flight. And also there's no regulatory pressure, at least for now, right? So there is no pressure right now to go do something today, specifically, not necessarily 2050. So the situation is very different from a place like Europe, or where you are, where there is consumer and government pressure. Whereas if you go to the Americas, there may not be visible consumer pressure or even government pressure, but there are government incentives and there is investor pressure, right? Because of these three different audiences, how do you balance this out? Or how do you encourage airlines to deal with this in a decent manner? Because it can't just be all consumer led if consumers don't really care and they're sorting by price. It can't just be regulatory compliance if there are no regulations. How do you deal with that?
We take as an assumption that we all live on the same planet, and whatever the regulation is, we have to do something, and that's what we are telling airlines that are not originating from Europe. Of course, Europe, you have very binding regulations. You have also combinability between train and airline more and more, while in other continents, it's less the case. But still, we believe that everything we can do for the planet is good everywhere. And that's the beauty of SkyTeam also, is because in Europe, the airlines were a little bit, let's say, more incentivized to move forward. We can also learn from the lessons and from the initiatives that were taken in Europe for the benefit of the other airlines. So that's typically where SkyTeam can bring value.
I find it really heartening personally to see a non-airline trying to benefit multiple airlines through this community aspect, and that's what gives me the most hope. This was supposed to be a last line at the end of the interview, but I have to say it because I'm totally feeling it right now, that this brings out the community aspect and everyone is working together, and hey, we are all part of the same planet. Now, there are airlines like Vietnam Airlines or Aerolíneas which are still on the starting off the ramp when it comes to sustainability. Yet there are airlines in SkyTeam like Delta or KLM, which is talking about investing in eVTOLs and SAF. How do you make it equitable here, where some airlines are way ahead and some airlines are still playing catch up?
It's not necessarily the big ones that have the most innovative ideas. They have, of course, they had to, but I was quoting Saudia, I was quoting Kenya Airways. They are very active and innovative in the challenge. They want to show that it's not only a challenge for the European or for the American. That's also the value of this challenge, and also the fact that we have a jury that can look at 25 different categories of initiatives. So it's not one big category. So I think there are opportunities for each of the members, whatever their size, whatever the maturity of their country on the matter, to really implement some breakthrough ideas, and that will benefit all the airlines. So once again, it's why we decided to have so many categories, to have a real scrutiny and detailed, action-oriented challenge that can be used by everyone.
Fair enough. We have to recognize that SkyTeam is an alliance. You can only suggest or recommend. You cannot implement for the airlines. Do you find that this is a challenge, that implementation is ultimately up to the airline and you have little control there?
Yeah, you're right. At the end of the day, airlines have to implement, but we can set standards. We can make sure that our joint customers can find a consistent level among the airlines of SkyTeam. Also, once again, our role is, we are not an airline, but we can organize exchange of best practices among the airline, and that has a lot of value. That has a lot of value, not only for the smaller members to learn from the big ones, but also the other way around.
Well, it definitely seems that in your first year of taking office, sustainability is a core part of your agenda. What about growth? Are you looking to grow the alliance by adding more airlines? I know you recently added Virgin Atlantic. Are there plans for more growth?
We don't want necessarily to be the airline that has the most number of airlines. What we want is to be the most consistent alliance and the alliance that is the most integrated. SkyTeam has a lot of JVs, joint ventures, and is the champion of joint ventures. And our ambition is to make sure that our members can develop their business together. Some of them have antitrust immunity, some of them don't. What we want is to make sure that they can grow their business thanks to the alliance. When it comes to new members, it has to be consistent with that. It has to be consistent with business development, and it has to be consistent with potential of new developments in some continents. So we don't need to have 35 members, but we need to have the alliance that develop the most added value for its members.
I think that does make sense. Now, you must be familiar with Star Alliance and their recent addition of Deutsche Bahn as a train, as the first train network into the alliance. Is that something on the cards for SkyTeam as well? Because intermodal is such a big thing now. Are you looking to add Thales in France or other partners in Europe or elsewhere, non-airline partners like that?
I was mentioning customer experience, and customer experience is made of mixed experience of airline, train, and maybe other means of transportations. So SkyTeam has to work with those operators. SkyTeam has to provide solutions, and the train is part of it, definitely. I take it more on the customer experience side, because it's really one week you're flying to New York, and the week after you will take the Thalys to Brussels, or the Eurostar to London when you live in Paris, for instance. So yeah, there are values attached to it, and I cannot comment more than that, but stay tuned.
I'm looking forward to what's coming there. Now, traditionally, aviation has always been about growth. Growth in aviation leads to a better societal fabric, interconnectedness. We have all known the benefit of aviation. In the ESG, aviation always stood out as the S, it's about society. But now the E, the environmental and sustainability aspects are, coming to the fore as well. How do you think aviation can balance or strike, some sort of happy handshake between growth and sustainability? How do we reach that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we saw with COVID that there's a new reality now, and people travel differently. The growth is still there, but in a different way. If we take the corporate travel, for instance, we see that they are traveling less than before. They try to use hybrids way of connecting, but people need to develop their business. And also that's what we saw during the crisis, that you cannot develop your business remotely. You have to meet in person. You have to shake hands. It's the quality of what we can offer to our customers to meet. Maybe less, but when they travel, they have it has to be with a purpose. Probably the quality of traveling will change. So the growth is a little bit different than before. It's less volume, but more need of good traveling. And a good example of that is a lot of airlines, and we will help them in that, are considering changing their the way they reward the best customers. And rather than building a frequent flyer program, they want to build a good flyer program. So that's very interesting. And the alliance itself and the partnerships is a way to fly better, because you can, thanks to an alliance, you can combine in your single trip different legs with different airlines, and make it more sustainable at the end of the day.
I like that you say going from frequent flyer program to a good flyer program. And I also like your emphasis on quality. So when people do travel, they want to have, a quality customer experience. They want to take care of sustainability. They want to be conscious travelers, and not just traveling for the sake of it. What gives you the most hope, Patrick, about the future of sustainability within aviation?
I'm very confident and optimistic for the future because all the airlines are aware that we have a big responsibility for the next generations. They are fully aware too. So combining our efforts with them, combining our efforts with all the airlines, but all the stakeholders of the airline industry, the willingness to make progresses is there, and we can see results. And maybe we are too poor in communicating as an industry about the results. But I'm not sure there are a lot of industries that have moved so drastically in a few years and has reduced their carbon footprint so rapidly. And it's on all dimensions. Aircraft type, new aircraft now flying, service on board, sustainable fuel, but also the way the customers want to contribute to that. And I'm convinced that the solution is not customers waiting for the airline to move, not the airline to waiting for the aircraft manufacturer to move. It's a team effort, and it's what makes me very confident and hopeful is that the reality is to work together to make it happen even more quickly than it's happening today. And it's exactly why we launched this Sustainable Flight Challenge. So maybe also you were mentioning how could we enlarge the scope for the future. It's maybe not only by having airlines part of this challenge, but maybe having other players being part of the challenge towards the same result.
I like that, because then you're going beyond just only the airlines, and the ecosystem comes together. Maybe some of the airport hubs like Amsterdam Schiphol, which is very active when it comes to sustainable measures coming together. I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for the Sustainable Sky Challenge. I observed closely the first year, and I was very impressed by some of the initiatives that airlines came, and they were, it wasn't just from expected sources, but even from unexpected areas. So I'm looking forward to what this year entails in terms of the SkyTeam Challenge. Now, the last part of this interview, Patrick, is what I call the rapid fire round, in which we get to know you a bit more personally. Very simple, easy questions, and hopefully good, insightful answers as well. I'll start with something simple. What is your favorite airline?
I will not lie to you. This is Air France.
Okay, good to know. I'm not not surprised at all. What is your favorite book?
My favorite book is The Bonfire of the Vanities. It's a book from the 90s that was in New York that shows the limit of the power and plug to reality.
Okay, thank you for that. What about your favorite movie?
My favorite movie has always been Taxi Driver.
Wow, I love that you have such crisp, clear answers. I love the clarity here. No ifs and buts. How about your favorite city?
So no surprise, it's New York.
Okay, not Paris, not Amsterdam. We'll stick to New York for this one. What is something you still want to learn?
I want to learn Dutch, which is a challenge, I can tell you.
That sometimes can take a few lifetimes. I wish you all the best in this one. It's not an easy language. What do you do in your free time, Patrick?
I love to be in open air, to run, to walk, to visit. And my challenge right now is to walk the Camino de Compostela, the way to Compostela. So I'm halfway there. I will walk another 10 days, second half of May. But I still need roughly one full month to get to Santiago. But it's really something that helps you to disconnect and to reconnect to the real life, I would say.
This is so interesting. For some reason, I think walking is back in vogue because you're the third person I have spoken to about walking this week. I had a previous podcast guest, Bonnie Simi, who wants to walk the Pacific Crest Trail, basically from the Mexican border to the Canadian border, but in the mountains. And that's a place she wants to walk. I also read about a guy who walked the entire length of Japan recently and what he learned. And there was an article just last week about a guy who walked around the world, 18,000 kilometers over 7 years.
Yeah.
So I do wish you all the best for your walk in the outdoors. And finally, Patrick, what is the best advice you have received?
That's a good question. I think the one that I bear in mind every day is one of my first manager that told me, when you are a manager, you have to listen a lot to your team, but don't try to please everyone, because otherwise you'll get lost.
Absolutely, that's a tough one. You learn
Exactly.
The sooner you learn that, the easier things become. Perfect. Thank you, Patrick, for your insights. I'm truly excited about the Sustainable Flight Challenge. I love the path SkyTeam is taking towards not just expansion and adding more members every few years, but quality, sustainability, and a focus on passenger experience. I do look forward to flying on SkyTeam, on a SkyTeam member airline soon. Thank you once again for all the insights.
Thanks a lot, Shashank.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainability in the Air. Aviation is one of the hardest to decarbonize industries, yet there are multiple paths to get to net zero. Awareness is key to a green future. So please give us your support to help our sustainable aviation insights reach a wider audience. You can do this by sharing this episode on your network, on LinkedIn, Twitter, or even WhatsApp. Or perhaps you might consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to this episode. You can start a conversation with us by writing to us at podcast@simpliflying, that's simply with an i.com. And for more content on sustainable aviation, please visit our website green.simplifying.com and join the movement. Sustainability in the Air is an original podcast by Simplifying. The show is produced by Juraj Toth in Slovakia. Dirk Singer is our Director of Sustainability, who leads research for each interviewee out of Greenwich, UK. Shubhadeep Pal is our Supervising Editor based out of Mumbai and Singapore. The articles are written by Ayushi Badola in Dehradun in India and Meera Hull in Montreal, Quebec. Creative design is led by Ligia Esteve in Montreal. Baiba Drimen is the project director for the show based out of Valencia, Spain. Special thanks to Wendy Sim in Singapore. And I'm Shashank Nigam, the CEO of Simplifying and your host. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn.